cost.
But no one trained them for the war waiting at home. WDBJ 7's Melissa Gaona joins us now with a story about veteran addiction.
And Melissa, I understand one local combat vet made it out alive, right?
Yes, that is right, Mitch and Kate. Across America, our veterans are fighting a different kind of battle, one that usually begins with trauma and can morph into addiction and a whole host of other issues. Some lose that battle, and some find the bravest mission of all, asking for help.
When a guy first comes in here, we give them some time, especially if they're just coming off of drugs.
The same man who was addicted and homeless is now saving others who've been in his boots. But the trauma didn't start with the military. It began 38 years ago in New Jersey. Eric Garrison was a happy kid, but behind the surface, he was in an unstable home and craved purpose.
We pretty much traveled up and down the East Coast. Every single year was a different school, if not more than one. And it was very lonely, to be honest. And I was always the new kid, so I struggled with identity issues.
Eric admits he found his identity with rebels and was exposed to drugs for the first time as a freshman in high school. By 17, he was homeless, addicted, and lost.
Started to run the streets, couch hopping, posting up in abandoned vehicles, tents, abandoned houses.
Regardless, life waits for no one. Eric got married, his wife became pregnant, and he enlisted in the United States Army as a joint fire observer, the eyes and ears of the artillery. Now trained and responsible for locating enemy targets and coordinating lethal firepower, he deployed to Iraq within 10 months. And the battlefield where he hoped to find himself instead made him question everything. But new life was happening back home. He now had a family, and while he survived combat overseas, he could not survive the stillness of civilian life.
I was having these panic attacks. My mind was telling me there was a reason for me to fear for my life when there really wasn't.
Eric came home with PTSD, pains of war taking a toll on his body. He again looked for help.
I went to the doctor here locally, and they gave me 120 Loratabs. I started to go down that path of pain pill addiction.
For Eric, trauma mixed with drugs were no match for any man, not even a combat soldier.
I went from being in charge of soldiers, training them, all this equipment, millions of dollars worth of equipment, to working at Walmart in the garden center. And I just consumed myself in drugs and alcohol, anything I could find to try to disconnect from reality.
Eric finally hit his breaking point. The man who served and saved his country was now asking for someone to rescue him. He checked into rehab and years later used his healing to serve the people he once fought for. The more he told his personal story, the more it fueled his passion to share sobriety. Eric launched Lionheart, a faith-based discipleship program where men coming out of addiction, homelessness, and trauma find refuge inside this home. It's called The Inn, and for 6 months, men live free of charge in a structured environment that goes far beyond the 12 steps of sobriety.
We do some evangelism in the streets.
Men like Lance Yates. He's not a veteran, but he is a small-town farm boy who grew up in the church with 2 college degrees.
Because I was drinking, I felt like I wasn't near as bad as somebody that was doing meth or somebody that was smoking pot. I had that air about me because I grew up in a Christian home and all this stuff, that somehow my situation wasn't near as bad as somebody else's situation, and I would kind of look down on those people.
Addiction could have cared less about Lance's good guy reputation. For this man of faith, it started with one drink. And despite a great upbringing, he found himself divorced, incarcerated, then homeless.
A 6-pack wasn't enough, and then it became a thing where a 12-pack wasn't enough. And so by the end of everything, it was up to probably a case a day.
Lionheart met Lance right where he was in his addiction. No strings attached, just a willingness to ask for help.
I thought it was going to be like some kind of institution-looking place, and I just had all this stuff going through my mind. When we get there, it was a house, and I'm like, okay, this may not be as bad as I thought it was going to be. And we get in, and the guys are like, welcome home. This is it. This is the end.
The program has helped over 50 men in the last few years. Lance has been sober for over a year and is now serving on the leadership team at Lionheart. But not every story ends in a fairy tale. Addiction affects 2.8 million U.S. veterans. The ugly truth is some make it out, but many do not. So what cured Eric, the boy who went into war broken and came out shattered?
In the town of Rural Retreat, I was sitting at a kitchen table, and I heard this small, still voice ask me a question. And the question was, what do you love most in the world? And I thought for a minute, I love my boys most in the world. And this small, still voice said to me, imagine how much you would have to love something else to sacrifice those boys for it, or to give them up for it. And I thought and contemplated that, and I couldn't comprehend loving something so much that I would sacrifice my children for it. And my response was, that's impossible. And that's when he said, that's how much I love you. And that's when my life drastically changed.
And for many, addiction does not begin on the streets like it did with Eric Garrison. It begins after deployment and after coming home with trauma. Be sure to join us at the end of the month for an hour-long special, The Bravest Call, on this very topic. Kate and Mitch will examine the growing crisis that is really facing America's veterans and the programs that are helping our military find their way back home.
Thank you very much, Melissa, for that very powerful story.
I know it's a reminder we can always get to the other side. Eric is doing that for so many people. Melissa, thank you.